Hello, guys. So I hope you had a good weekend. I am going to go through this quizzes that we started in class with you. And then you guys are going to do a similar one by yourself that's going to be posted on Google Classroom. So let's go through each one. And then again, if you're confused, maybe get a piece of paper so that you can write down some things, because that information is going to be helpful for when you take a different version of this by yourself after you watch this. So here we have an experiment, and it says a student is testing. It should say if the temperature of the water makes fish eat more, and it says she puts the fish in hot water, cold water, and room temperature water, and then adds food to the tank. And again, Mrs. has another typo. She can't spell tank. So she records how many days it takes for all the food to be gone. So, and then the question is, write a possible hypothesis. So a possible hypothesis here could be the fish will eat more food in hot water. Okay, that could be your hypothesis. It could also be that they eat more food in cold water, or they eat more food in room temperature water, or that the water temperature of the water has no effect. All right, so it's going to load, and we're going to go to the next question. So a student is testing if the temperature, this is the same experiment. I'm not going to read it again. It's just the same experiment that I just gave you. Okay, but it asks, in this case, what would the independent variable be? And the independent variable is what the person is changing in the beginning. So the independent variable is the temperature of the water. All right, that is what is being changed. And it's important that you say that it is the temperature of the water. So again, this is out of order. We want to name a function of a protein. I will give you two functions of a protein here. So they act as enzymes, which we'll learn more about later. And they also fight disease. We learned about antibodies fighting the COVID virus. But those are two examples of functions of a protein. All right, we're getting to there are some multiple choice here. So check all that are functions of protein. So help keep animals warm. That's a function of lipids. Making muscle is a function of protein. Helping transport substance is a function of protein. If you remember, we talked about hemoglobin. The main energy source of living things is carbohydrates, and proteins can be hormones. So those are all the checked ones, are all the functions of protein. So there was a picture that appeared, and again, these are out of order, so unfortunately, it's a little silly because they're out of order, but there was a picture of an unsaturated acid, and when we look at that picture, you'll see that an unsaturated fatty acid has a bend, and the bend is caused by a double bond. And when we get to that question, I will show you that, but unsaturated fatty acids have a bend, which is caused by a double bond. All right, so again, we have the same experiment with this fish, and we're putting them in different temperatures of water, and it wants to know a constant. Remember, constants are the thing that need to be kept the same for the experiment to be fair. We want nothing else affecting the fish besides the temperature of the water. So an example of one constant would be the type of fish. Like maybe some breeds of fish or species of fish eat more, so the type of fish could be a constant. You also would want to be the amount of water, the size of the tank, the number of fish. Those are all things that you would want to keep the same in an experiment. And then here, same experiment, it wants the dependent variable. So the dependent variable is what is measured in the experiment. If you look right here, it tells you exactly what they're measuring. She records how many days it takes for all the food to be gone. So what she is exactly measuring is how many days it takes for the food to be gone. All right, so here we have this molecule, and this molecule is an unsaturated fat. And the reason why it's an unsaturated fat is it has 3 fatty acids, then it has this double bond, what makes it bend. Now, why it's a liquid at room temperature is the bend, okay, makes it harder for the fat molecules to pack together. Again, and that bend is caused by the double bond. And particles of a liquid are further apart. So if it's harder to pack molecules together, they tend to be liquids. All right. So here it wants us to check all that are functions of carbohydrates. So long-term energy storage is lipids. They are the main source of energy in living things. They do not make up the structures of animals. That's protein. They do not serve as the genetic material. We learned that's nucleic acid last week, but they do make up the structure of plants. So if you're eating the leaves or touching the stem of a plant, it is a carbohydrate. All right. So again, we already did this one, so I'm not going to say it again. It wants a constant. On the other one, I wrote that it was the type of fish. You would also want to have the same size tank. Another constant that's really important here is the amount of food you start with, because if you're measuring how much is gone, you want to make sure you start with the same amount of food. Oh, some sort of mystery is coming. Okay, I see. And some sort of, I've actually never actually entered this from the student side, so it's interesting. Anyway, moving on to the next question. All right, so match the following with their building blocks. So this is asking you to pull it down. So the building blocks of carbohydrates, which means what is the smallest carbohydrate that makes it up? Those are monosaccharides. The building blocks of lipids we learned are a glycerol and 3 fatty acids. The building blocks of protein or amino acids. The building blocks of nucleic acids or nucleotides. And then last but not least, why polysaccharides? You may want to put that with carbohydrate, but polysaccharides are not a building block of a carbohydrate. They're actually the largest carbohydrate you can have. So that goes in the none category. And I think we have 3 more questions. All right, so what is the name of the following? And this is silly because it tells you up here. But the reason why it's an unsaturated fatty acid is because it has a double bond here. And it's not a fat, because to be a fat, you need to have 3 fatty acids. But again, it's unsaturated because it has this bend, which is caused by the double bond. All right, so check all that are true about this molecule. So the first thing that you should know about this molecule, because there's no double bonds in these long tails here, that it is a saturated fat. So that is not true here. So it's not an unsaturated fat, so we're not going to check them. Unsaturated fat, this is a saturated fat. Again, no double bonds. They are not the best fat for you. That's unsaturated fats. So it has the carbons, oxygen, carbon, and hydrogen. If we look, oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, we would click there. It's a solid at room temperature. We learned that that's true for saturated fats. Butter is an example of a saturated fat. And saturated fats are not found mostly in plants. They're found mostly in animals. So the only 2 here that are correct are here, or that it contains the elements oxygen, carbon, and hydrogen, and it's a solid at room temp. The other ones are true about unsaturated fats. The ones that we tracked are true about saturated fats. And here is a meme that is randomly popping up. All right. So check all that are functions of lipids. So lipids do provide insulation. We talked about blubber in whales. They keep us warm. They are not the main source of energy in living things. That's carbs. They are the source of long-term energy storage. They do not help fight disease. That's protein. And they can be hormones. There are both lipid and protein hormones. Again, another meme. All right, and then last, and that's probably most importantly, it wants us to match the biomolecule with the atoms that they contain. So let's start with the easiest one to identify are proteins and nucleic acids, because proteins contain sulfur and nitrogen, and that is unique. Nucleic acids contain phosphorus and nitrogen, which is unique. Now we have the problem between carbohydrates and lipids. When you have a carbohydrate, if you remember we did this in class, when you take the oxygens and multiply them by 2, they have to equal the number of hydrogens. Okay, and the one that says that is here, contains CH and O, but the H's are double the oxygens. Okay, when you look at a lipids formula, the H's are more than double. You may have like 3 oxygens and 15 or 25 hydrogens. And then this one here is the reverse, okay? It says contains carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, but oxygens are double the hydrogens. This one is for none of them because it's the reverse for carbohydrates. The hydrogens are double the O's. And I believe after this one, we are done. I'm going to click submit. And I believe it's going to show me my score, which again, some are ungraded, so it won't grade them. It tells me the end. I'm going to say I had a good time. I'm going to say it's great. I'm just going to say logging in clicks time. All right, so if you watch this video, you should be set to do the, look, I got 100. You should be set to do the regular quiz. I am now going to stop recording. Again, you can watch this at any time. It is actually on YouTube. But I am going to now stop recording, and you should do your own quizzes. I will see you guys on Friday.